The first thing he typed wasn't hello. It wasn't ASL. It wasn't any of the normal things strangers say. It was my last name. Just my last name, and a question mark. I was 19 years old, living alone in a studio apartment in Columbus, Ohio. It was a Tuesday night in January. Cold, nothing to do, nobody to call. I'd opened Omegle maybe a dozen times in my life, mostly out of boredom. That night, I didn't even have a reason. I just needed noise. I want you to understand the layout of Omegle at that time. You pressed a button, you got a stranger. You could see each other on webcam or just chat. Most people were weird, some were funny. You skipped through dozens before anyone interesting showed up. That's the nature of the site. It was chaos, but harmless chaos. At least, that's what I believed. I'd been on for maybe 20 minutes, skipping through the usual parade of dark screens and bored teenagers when I matched with him. The webcam on his end was on, but he'd pointed it at the ceiling. All I could see was a water-stained tile and the edge of what looked like a wooden chair. He didn't speak, he just typed. The first message was, Kowalski. That's my last name. I'd never told anyone on Omegle my name, not even a fake one. I hadn't mentioned it in any previous chats that session. I sat there staring at the word on the screen for a solid 5 seconds before I typed back, "How do you know that?" He didn't answer the question. He typed, "You moved here from Akron, September." I closed the laptop. I sat in the dark for 10 minutes. I told myself it was a coincidence, a lucky guess. Maybe I'd been on Omegle before and forgotten. Maybe he recognized me from somewhere. I had a public Instagram at the time. Maybe he'd found me from a photo. I spent the next hour looking for rational explanations because the irrational one was too uncomfortable to sit with. 2 nights later, I was on my laptop doing homework when a new chat popped up from Omegle. I hadn't opened the site. I just left a tab open from earlier. Someone had matched with me. The message read, "You didn't say goodbye last time." The webcam was pointed at the ceiling again. Same water-stained tile, same wooden chair in the corner. I closed the tab immediately. The next morning, I deleted my Omegle history, cleared my cookies, and felt stupid for being scared. I was fine for 4 days. Then I got a note under my apartment door. It was a folded piece of lined paper, the kind you tear out of a spiral notebook. Written on it in small, careful handwriting were the words, "The ceiling in your room has a water stain too, top left corner." I looked up. There was a water stain in the top left corner of my ceiling. There had always been one. I'd never paid attention to it. But whoever wrote that note had been inside my apartment, or they'd seen my ceiling somehow. Neither option made me feel better. I stopped sleeping with the lights off. I stopped sleeping, period. I called the building manager. He said no one had a key except him and maintenance. He said he'd look into it, which meant he wouldn't. I called the non-emergency police line. They told me to document everything and call back if something more concrete happened. Concrete? Like what, a body? I bought a chain lock for my door. I covered my laptop camera with tape. I made my Instagram private. I told 2 friends what was happening, and they both suggested I was being paranoid. I started to believe them. Then the Omegle chat started again, not when I opened the site, but pushed to my email address somehow. Notifications from conversations I hadn't started. The messages were always short. You left your light on again. Do you always eat at midnight? The window above the sink doesn't lock all the way. 3 weeks after the first chat, I came home from a shift at work. I waitressed at a diner nearby, and my apartment door was unlocked. I always locked it. The chain was on the inside, which meant someone had to be in there to put it on.
I stood in that hallway for 60 seconds, then I called 911. The police arrived in 9 minutes. They found my apartment empty, no signs of forced entry, but my laptop was open on the kitchen table. I had left it closed, and on the screen was an Omegle chat window. The other side was connected. The webcam was pointed at the ceiling. The officer leaned down and read the most recent message on the screen. He didn't tell me what it said right away. He straightened up, turned to his partner, and said something quietly. Then he looked at me and asked if I had somewhere else I could stay that night. I asked him what the message said. He paused. Then he told me, "She's standing in the hallway right now." They never found him. The IP traced to a public library terminal 3 blocks from my apartment that had been used 7 minutes before the police arrived. The terminal's camera was covered with a sticker. The librarian remembered a man who came in regularly around closing time, but couldn't describe him beyond average height, quiet. I moved out of that apartment 6 days later. New city, new number, new accounts, new everything. For the next year and a half, nothing happened. I started to heal. I started to forget. Last spring, I was helping a friend set up her new apartment. I was hanging a curtain rod in her bedroom when she called out from the kitchen, "Hey, you have any idea who Kowalski is? Someone left a note under the door." I don't know how he found me again. I don't know how long he'd been watching before he let me know he was there. What I do know is that he's patient, and patient people are the most dangerous kind.